Hey everyone, my name is Andy Hall. This is news you can use to fight fascism, either here, wherever you are, or abroad. We're going to talk about new sanctions. We're going to talk about Germany. We're going to talk about Ukraine and Russia, of course. But first, we're going to talk about this woman, but a little bit about Christian nationalism here. A little bit about people dying from COVID because they are anti-scientific. Links and descriptions in the story, in the links to these stories are in the description below, everyone. Karla Ann Perry, 41, Virginia Beach. She's an author, anti-vaxxer, and dead from COVID. And here's a picture of her and her husband. So what kind of author was she? You may be asking yourself, and I'm glad, because I'm going to drop this little nugget of knowledge on you all, is that she was a Calvinist. And for those of you who know about Calvinists, they are their theology, it's pretty wacky. The way that they figure out how to deal with free will and God's plan, because those are two contradictory ideas, is God being in control of everything and having a plan, and yet you still having free will. That's a contradiction. And Calvinists square that circle by saying that you don't have any free will. Free will is an illusion and it does not exist. That's just one of their interesting beliefs. But let's look at what kind of book she writes. Karla Perry, she's a worldview revitalizer, everyone. She's a worldview revitalizer, and you can see the Reformation of America with the American eagle carrying this is what you would expect from a Christo-fascist, to tell you the truth. That's the kind of book that you would expect from a Christo-fascist. Let's see. Karla Perry and her husband, Joseph. Karla is the author of The Reformation of America. Joseph Towson, he's a religious leader, speaker, author, and coach consultant. One of our readers advised that Karla is a Calvinist, a follower of John Calvin, a well-known Protestant reformer. The writer of this article didn't know that much about Calvinism. So once again, no free will. Once again, in Calvinism, that every single person that has ever existed or ever will existed is absolutely separated from God and horrible and dirty and muddy and nasty. And the only thing, maybe John Calvin didn't write that, but it gives you a feel for his writings, and that the only thing that saves us, poor destitute creatures, is God's grace. So what kind of things did Karla post on social media? I'm glad you asked that. Not only was she against vaccines, but as with many Christian fascists, against the $15 minimum wage. And you can see that she posted something from the Christian Post here, written by this august-looking gentleman. I spent a lot of time actually researching these stories. So I clicked on to see what this gentleman's point of view was about the minimum wage. And I'm just going to read you this little bit. These are words about Jesus. And I'm just going to read the verse here. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me, or do you begrudge my generosity? That's from a parable that Jesus is talking about from Matthew 20:15. And this is this gentleman's interpretation. Jesus appears to be making the case for business owners having the freedom to determine what they will pay, and workers having their freedom to enter employment contracts with employers without the input or interference from any outside entities. This would, on the surface, give the impression that there is no biblical mandate for federal minimum wage, and that the true minimum wage is exactly $0. Once again, Karla Perry is posting this man's article on social media, agreeing with the fact that there's no such thing as a minimum wage, and that the true minimum wage is $0. Let's see what other let's see what other compassionate feels she has for her fellow, maybe less fortunate people that she posted about. This is her complaining about the CDC enacting a new ban on evictions, because as many of you know, people were out of work. And so the CDC put a temporary ban on rent, right? So that people wouldn't be, so that families, women, children, elderly wouldn't be thrown out of their apartments. But she seems to be against that by just looking. What did she say? This is insane. The CDC should not have this power, nor should landlords be restricted from collecting rent or evicting people who do not pay their rent. This is an injustice. But what would you expect from someone like Ms. Perry, thinking that, this is what happens with these toxic belief systems. They turn black into white. They turn compassion into evil. This one just burns my brain cells. I'm going to tell you this. This is what she said on December 29th, 2021. My duty as an American citizen is to self-govern, steward my liberty righteously, not intelligently, everyone, but righteously. The government's duty is to protect my right to self-govern, protect my liberty from foes, foreign and domestic. Germs are not a foe that steals my liberty. I'm going to read it again. Germs are not a foe that steals my liberty. If you cannot exercise your liberty if you're dead, your fellow citizens cannot exercise their liberty if they are dead. Ms. Perry, who is now dead from COVID, from a preventable disease, has had all of her liberty taken away from her because she is dead. So this is from her husband, Joseph Perry. Of course, we've seen this many times about the death announcements. Let's see. I'm just going to focus on this line here. But she still needs healing in her drugs from this demonic pneumonia. I don't know if you can see that line. He's asking for prayers, of course, and she needs prayers because her lungs are healing from this demonic pneumonia. Pneumonia is not demonic. What is insane is that people in the early 21st century still believe in this kind of claptrap. Yes, I'm going to use that strong word, that strong language, claptrap, everyone. All right, I'm going to check out the chat. If you're watching on Twitter or on Facebook, look, I talk to the people in the chat. We're a community here. If you want to join us, then come on to the YouTube channel, Laughing in Disbelief, and you can join the community and share your thoughts. All right. Oh, man. See what else? What's up, Cindy Plaza? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing okay. I don't know if anyone else, as soon as you heard that she was a Calvinist, you're like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Oh, the girlfriend's here. Hello. I hope everyone's doing okay. It's been a long weekend, hasn't it? Is demonic pneumonia pretty bad? I think so, Big Zebra. Demonic, if we just were able to brand the vaccine as blessed or anointed or something like that, maybe we could get more evangelicals to take it. Demonia, yes, Tesla Ranger. All right, so I think am I caught up with everyone? There's a lot of folks here today. Yes, Inquisitor Bacon, the woman does seem like a delight, and I will say it for the now deceased Karla Perry, is that she can string words together. She isn't like Trump supporters who you see in many YouTube comment sections. She can actually string words together. They just happen to be wrong. No basis in reality. Okay. The girlfriend says, who the hell cares if the Bible supports a federal minimum wage? Yes. Good questions. And Phil Lister, thank you, Phil Lister, for pointing this out. Calvinists did approve of slavery. Indeed. Okay. You want to do this? You want to do the next story? Okay. I'm going to try to do this justice, everyone. West unleashes swift bans, more crushing penalties on Russia. The United States and European allies have agreed to levy the most potentially crippling sanctions yet on Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. SWIFT is basically a system that allows money transfers, fund transfers. I have a link, actually, to Patrick Boyle's YouTube channel. Patrick Boyle is an economist. Well, he really smart guy. He has a YouTube channel. Investment person. What kind of title is that? But there's a link in the description below to Patrick Boyle's video about SWIFT sanctions, and what the real story is here are the sanctions against the Central Bank of Russia. Because while the SWIFT allows, that's like a messaging system that allows nation states, allows organizations to transfer money, the actual story here are the sanctions on the bank itself, because getting Russia out of SWIFT means they just can't transfer money that quickly. But what the sanctions on the central bank does is prevent Russia from transferring money at all. Once again, there's two links, one to Patrick Boyle's video, which I suggest you watch, and of course the link to this story. So here we go. The U.S. and European allies announced the moves in a joint statement as part of a new round of financial sanctions meant to hold Russia to account and collectively ensure that this war is a strategic failure for Putin. The central bank restrictions target access to more than $600 billion in reserves that the Kremlin has at its disposal, and are meant to block Russia's ability to support the ruble as it plunges in value and amid tightening Western sanctions. The ruble and Russia's stock market have both declined sharply after Russia launched the military action in Ukraine on Thursday. The ruble recovered slightly, but is still down more than 6% from before Putin's announcement, and at 84 rubles a dollar. This is a graph that I took from Patrick Boyle's video about the Bank of Russia in terms of its gold. You will see that Japan, Germany, France, the US, the UK, Austria holds quite a bit of Russia's gold reserves. Those reserves are now no longer accessible to Russia. It is more painful for Russia to borrow money, and I think the only country that would do that at this point is China, right? And that money, that the war in Ukraine is costing Russia about $20 billion a day. $20 billion a day to fight Ukraine. And also, of course, a variety of different banks have put Russia's credit rating down to junk bond status. So these are sanctions, and I just want to back up a little bit. We covered this last week, that sanctions are just as likely to do nothing than to backfire in our faces, right? Sometimes there's a 5% chance that they actually do something positive, and then there's a 5% chance that they do something negative, really negative. There's a 90% chance that they don't alter the behavior of the group, of the nation that these sanctions are being put on. And I also want to point out that the only time that central banks have had their assets frozen, the only countries that have had this happen to them is Iran, North Korea, and Venezuela. Those are the only three countries that have had their central banks targeted in this way. So this is significant, everyone. Announcing the measures in Brussels, the EU Commission President von der Leyen said she would push the bloc to paralyze the assets of the Russia's central bank so that the transactions would be frozen. Cutting several commercial banks from SWIFT will ensure that these banks are disconnected from the international finance system and harm their ability to operate globally, she added. Cutting banks off will stop them from conducting most of their financial transactions worldwide and effectively block exports and imports, she said. I just want to point out, too, that before getting kicked out of SWIFT, Vladimir Putin said that that was the nuclear option. And so when you think about Vladimir Putin putting the Russian nuclear forces on alert, that is probably directly in response to him getting SWIFT sanctions. Right? All right. Wow, it's already 15 minutes in the show. There's already 24 comments I have to catch up with. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you a cat video, because that's what we do to try to keep our sanity here. I'm going to look at some of the comments, but first, cat video, everyone. That was early. That was me. Okay, so I'm just cutting. I'd like to point out that Ukraine has been working to become part of NATO. Well, yes, I think that, yeah, and in retrospect, that was probably the best move for them, isn't it? To be part of NATO. Yeah, Sean, Putin will burn down Russia in his hubris. I hope that his violin is tuned up. Well, the problem is whether or not Vladimir Putin is now acting as a rational person. Is he a rational actor? Because in the past, you can say in retrospect that even though he's a dictator and he's caused a lot of misery in the world, he has been a rational actor. But is this now something that he has gotten himself into? Has he gotten himself into a situation he cannot get himself out of? And is he still acting rationally, or is it all on emotion? And that's scary, to tell you the truth. Let's see. I think I caught up with everyone. That's right. That was the tummy rub show right there, the little cat video. So I mentioned last week, I don't know if it was in this show or if it was in one of the after parties, or that I mentioned that one of the side effects of this invasion in Ukraine is that Europe will have to get used to the fact that the Germans are going to more than likely increase their military budget and create a real military deterrent. So that was a bit predictive on my part. That was maybe one of my, I'm not going to use the term prophecy because that smacks too much of religion and faith, but maybe I was right. Russia's invasion prompts Germany to beef up military funding. Look, everyone, you may not hear this a lot on other channels here on YouTube, but these are the big stories, right, about the central bank having its assets frozen. And I heard on Bloomberg Radio, by the way, Bloomberg TV this morning, is that physical assets of the oligarchs might be taken too. Physical assets like yachts. So you could see maybe a country's government taking an oligarch's, seizing an oligarch's yacht. That would be beautiful, I know. But let's get back to this story here. Berlin, in an extraordinary address to a special session of Parliament on Sunday, Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced a significant increase in military spending, reversing the country's longstanding policy that has favored deterrence over conflict. Mr. Scholz announced a one-time increase of 100 billion euros for defense spending and a pledge to spend more than 2% of Germany's economic output annually on defense. He also proposed enshrining that threshold in the country's constitution, ensuring that future governments follow it. Over the past 24 hours, Germany's foreign and military policy have undergone startling changes. The government announced on Saturday that it would send 1,000 shoulder-launched anti-tank rockets and 500 surface-to-air Stinger missiles to Ukraine, pushing aside long-held government policy not to send weapons to conflict zones. Germany also announced that it had allowed the Dutch government to send Ukraine 400 German-made anti-tank weapons and the Estonian government to send 9 Cold War-era howitzers, transfers that it had blocked for months. So this is a significant move in Germany and for the European community, to tell you the truth. Germany is Europe's largest economy. It has the last time I heard, maybe 80 million people in it. It's got one of the most, it's got a lot of people in it. And let's face it, the Europeans have to be responsible, have to take more responsibility for security on their continent, right? And this is a move in the right direction, in my opinion. Checking out the chat. Not the yachts, no. Won't something about the yacht? Yeah, I would love to see. I would love to see a couple of oligarch yachts be taken. Hey, what's up, Wes? I don't get to see how much of the show. Oh, well, you sleep in too much. That's okay. I get to wake up really early, to tell you the truth. Unsurprisingly, my cat woke me up this morning. Um, Blazing says, under any other circumstance, Europe would say, oh, no, not again, Germany. But this is not the time. But not this time. Exactly, Blazing. Exactly. This is true. This is the bizarre world that we live in. This is it. So, hey, you'll notice, everyone, there are no ads here on this channel, right? No ads on this show, supported by kind people like yourselves who are YouTube members, who do the super chats, who, throw some shekels in the super chats, who are patrons, or who donate some money via PayPal and Venmo down. Links in the description below. Thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. So I'm going to throw down a cat video. I'm going to throw down the thank you video. And hey, we're doing an after party after show on the sister channel, the Naked Diner Podcast. If you want to be on the panel and just chat, the link is in the description below. If you want to see what it's all about, what this after party after show is, the link is in the description below too. I want to thank you for showing up. Let's just, my heart goes out to the people in Ukraine. Did you see Saturday Night Live last night? The opener, very moving. It was a choir, Ukrainian choir, teared up a little bit. But I'll see you at 9:30, everyone.